very difficult. You try to pull in your administrator into the meeting that you're having with them. But basically, it's trying to calm them down and to try to find out what their main concern is, you know, to calm that parent down.
Then what will you do for a student that cannot respond well to your behavior plan?
You have to contact the parent. You have to have that parental input in terms of contacting the parent to make certain that the parent is aware of what's going on. You keep parent logs, and you're constantly having to call the parent, to contact the parent to let them know what's going on.
Okay. So say you contact the parent. What if the parent doesn't respond? I mean,
that has happened, that the parent doesn't respond, but you're still keeping your logs. Like most school districts, you have to go before a referral is written to the administration. There are processes. So the process is you contact the parent. You talk to the student. You go to 2 or 3 steps before the actual referral is written, and that refers them to the administration. So after you've done all the things that you're supposed to do, make certain that you have good documentation, okay, along with that. So I have it in my computer on Excel, whereas that I have a log of every time that I've contacted a parent, what was said, the date, the person that I spoke to, and all of that, so that if anything comes back, then I have a log saying that I spoke to this person on such and such day, or I made this call, I was not able to contact the parent, or the phone was disconnected, whatever the situation is, I keep that.
okay.
Okay.
What can you do for a student that seems to be below grade level?
A lot of the students, unfortunately, at the middle school level, some of the majority of them are at below grade level. So that doesn't mean that you teach them below grade level. You try to teach them at a higher level, but you do things like in the beginning, like if you have math drills, or you have, like if you have a student that's low in, don't know their multiplication facts, you do a 1-minute drill every day with those students to help them to build those skills up. You also do tutoring. You may do morning tutoring, you may do afternoon tutoring. That's when the extra duty time comes in. You know, your job as a teacher is not just an 8 to 5 job. You know, you have, or 8 to 4 job. That's a job that requires that you have to pull in those particular students that you know that are weak, and of course you're contacting the parents to let them know that they're weak, and that you want to help pull those scores up and pull their abilities up at the same time.
So did you, I know you said you did tutoring, but during class time, did you pull those students to your side during the class time, or did you just do it like specifically like before and after?
Before and after, and then those students that I knew that was extremely weak, then they would be with me.
Okay.
All right. While the students were doing other activities around the room, like they would do their group work around the room, then I will have maybe 10 minutes to work directly with them to help them in certain areas.
What we do for a student who continues to not turn in homework?
Homework is not a big thing with me, because being in a setting that I'm in, a lot of students don't do homework. So the most that I would give them is one problem, okay? And that's one of their high-level problems. And then we'll try to work as much as that problem as they possibly can within the classroom, especially those students who refuse basically to do their homework. So being in an urban setting, you're going to find that a lot of students don't do homework.
So I don't know, because I've always had to do a lot of homework. So but I didn't grow up in an urban setting either. So does it prepare them enough for the test, or I mean, because I guess you can't really force them to do homework, or.
You can't really force them to do homework, and so what I basically, like I said, I
Yeah.
basically do, I limit the amount of homework
But
that I
you do a
give them.
critical thinking.
And
Okay.
I do a critical thinking type of activity with them. Then I also do a problem of the week with
Okay.
them also. That kind of helps, and that problem of the week is a long problem that culminates at the end of the week. And so that kind of makes up for the homework.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
What does a math lesson plan look like in your classroom?
You're going to have like a sponge activity, all right? If I'm understanding your question correctly, what would my lesson look like during the course of the day? Is that what you're asking me? Okay. And while I'm monitoring the hall, my students should come in, their pencils are already, I have a whole container of pencils, so you don't have to waste any time for sharpening pencils during that first 5 minutes of class. That's a sponge activity. That sponge activity is related to it's the STAR test now, okay? So it's related to that. We go through, after they finish that, I finish what I needed to do outside. I don't have to check attendance because I know what's the assigned seats. And so I look at, and I don't waste time checking attendance. I check it during the middle of the day and at the end of the day, okay, with my students. Because all I do is I look at their numbers, where they they're sitting at, and I know that those numbers, those students were absent. So that alleviates me having to go and waste time checking the attendance. The only problem with checking attendance is that it's computerized on the system. So you have to make certain that you're making certain that you're turning it in. But back to answer your question, what does my classroom look like? From the beginning, you have a bell ringer, which is the sponge activity. We quickly review that. Then we go over what we kind of covered the day before. So I check for prior knowledge to see what they really need to go over. And then after that, I'll introduce the lesson. And given the fact that you only have 55 minutes, you cut that down to almost 45 minutes. You don't have a whole lot of time. So I sort of get them started on what they're supposed to cover today. And after that, I give them their assignments. They normally have stations that they have to go to. So I try to give no more than 3 stations because of the time frame. Once they cover those stations, they have a person that reports out about the problem. So they have to select the problem, and then they have to report out on their problem. Then after that, we kind of wrap up by an exit ticket. So they have an exit ticket, and they have to cover where they had a problem with during the lesson that they had.
Oh, okay.
And we just go through that process almost
Wow.
every day.
Oh, so your classroom's like, they know what to do, right?
Yeah.
They're getting now. I guess we did just the last week. We set up our classrooms, and a lot of them did groups. When I went to school, we were like all in little lines. Like in your classroom, how did you set it up? Did you set it up like little lines? Or?
The only time that they're in rows is when they know that they're going to take a quiz.
Okay.
All right. But other than that, they're in groups.
They're in groups. Okay.
Yeah. So when they walk in, oh my God, we're in rows, so we got a quiz today. So they know the procedure, but it's getting your procedures down, and they know when it's going to be a quiz and when it's not. Okay.
Okay.
So when they're doing group work, they're in groups. So when they walk in, they're in groups, and then the other time I turn the chairs in rows, and that way they know that they have a quiz.
How would you accommodate non-English speaking parents?
Because of the fact that I'm not bilingual, first of all, the spoken language in our area is Spanish. So I do know a couple of words.
Well, that's
no
good.
Spaniel. But I do find someone who can translate for me.